One of the most important parenting skills is the ability to regulate yourself before you react. Because most parenting damage does not happen in big dramatic moments, it happens in small, repeated moments of emotional escalation. Imagine this, that a mother has already had a long day with work pressure, mental overload, household responsibilities, and constant interruptions. And then her child spills water all over the floor right after she finished cleaning. Now, logically, she knows this is a small incident, but emotionally, her nervous system is already overloaded. So the reaction is immediate and she starts yelling at the child. What is wrong with you? Can't you be careful? I just cleaned this. The child becomes silent and the environment becomes tense. And within a few seconds, the emotional state of the entire room changes. Later, the mother feels guilty because deep down she knows that the reaction was larger than the situation itself. And this is where we have to understand something important. Most reactions are not created only by the present moment. They are amplified by the accumulated emotional load already sitting inside the nervous system. Many parents assume emotional regulation means never getting angry. That is not realistic in any way. Regulation does not mean the absence of emotion, it means creating enough internal space between emotion and reaction. Because when there is no pause, the nervous system reacts automatically. And automatic reactions are usually survival responses like shouting, threatening, lecturing, emotional intensity, withdrawal, or loss of control. This happens not because the parent is bad, but because the nervous system is overloaded. When the brain perceives stress, frustration, disrespect, chaos, or overwhelm, the emotional centers of the brain activate much faster than the rational centers. That is why, in reactive moments, many parents say things they regret later. The reaction happens first and the awareness comes later. And children are deeply affected by these emotional shifts, not only by the words, but by the tone, the facial expression, the emotional intensity, the body language of the parent, and the unpredictability of the environment. Because children experience the emotional environment through the nervous system before they process it logically. This is why regulation before reaction is so important because the emotional state of the parent shapes the emotional safety of the interaction. A regulated parent can still hold boundaries, can still say no, can still correct behavior, but the correction happens without emotional flooding, and that changes the entire experience for the child. There is a major difference between shouting, "How many times should I tell you to be careful and not spill water everywhere?" and calmly saying, "Clean it up, please." The boundary may be the same, but the nervous system experience is completely different. One creates fear and emotional activation, the other creates stability and accountability together. This is why I believe emotional regulation is actually a form of leadership in parenting, because in emotionally charged moments, the most regulated nervous system becomes the stabilizing force of the environment. And children slowly learn regulation by repeatedly experiencing that stability, not through lectures or punishments, but through co experiencing calm correction over time. I also think many parents are trying to correct behavior too quickly. Sometimes the first responsibility is not correction, it is regulation. Because a dysregulated parent trying to regulate a dysregulated child usually creates escalation, not connection. And this is where awareness becomes important. So instead of asking, "How do I stop this behavior immediately?" the more relevant question would be, "What state am I bringing into this interaction right now?" Regulation before reaction does not mean you will never make mistakes as a parent. You will, all parents do. But over time, even a small increase in self awareness changes the emotional atmosphere of the home. The reactions become less intense, recovery becomes faster, and conversations become safer. And children begin to learn that difficult emotions can be handled without emotional chaos. And that may be one of the most important things a child can experience while growing up. For more such videos on parenting, emotional regulation, and intentional motherhood, do consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you for being here.